Cameron Brandt is joining us, Director of Research at EPFR Global. Cameron, great to have you back on the program here on CNBC-TV18. Thanks for joining in. You know, the last time we spoke, you were pointing out as to how India-dedicated flows into India-dedicated funds, rather, were some of the highest you've seen in the last many years. This was a few weeks ago. What's the latest picture?
The latest picture is that those flows continue to have extremely strong momentum among the major emerging markets country fund groups. So far in July, India equity funds have had by far the strongest inflows, and we're seeing that spread over to the fixed income side. Dedicated India bond funds are also at the top of their peer group in the emerging bond fund country groups.
Hi, Cameron. Good morning. So India is getting a large chunk, but what about the other emerging markets? Are you seeing it spread out?
There's a bit of interest in Korea, and some people still feel that China represents a momentum play in the second half of the year, that the current trickle of less than compelling economic news will force policymakers' hands, and that we'll see increasingly strong stimulus as we push in through the second half of the year.
Cameron, you know, we've spoken about it in the past. Are there already structures in the market which allow global investors to put in money into emerging markets, say Asia emerging markets, ex-Japan, ex-China? Are those vehicles available?
Well, we obviously are very much focused on ETFs and mutual funds, and they've stood the test of time. So those remain, you know, outside sophisticated institutional investors, the sort of primary channels that we see money moving into Indian equities.
Okay. What about, I mean, you know, funds, India dedicated funds, Cameron? Those are because, you know, in terms of foreign funds, we get bulk of our flows through global emerging market funds. The country dedicated funds is a small proportion. Is that expanding in a structural kind of way?
I think it is. You're perfectly right that historically the first thing we've looked at is the share of the average global emerging market fund portfolio going to India. But certainly in the past 2-3 months, the bulk of the flows have been going to dedicated India funds, and the majority of that, certainly 60-70%, are going into funds that generally have sort of a long-term perspective. So that is something of a change from the historic patterns that we've tended to see in previous upswings.
What about the other asset classes, Cameron? In terms of gold, Bitcoin out of nowhere, jumped back this year.
Yeah.
Is there anything you have on flows on both those two asset classes?
Well, I'm interested that you highlight cryptocurrency. There certainly seems to be an element of how quickly they forget in the current flows, and one asset class I'm watching somewhat nervously is the subgroup of financials that fall into the bucket regional banks. People seem to have forgotten what happened back in March and early April, but I think the Fed has one more rate hike in it, and we're still seeing a lot of money move into liquidity funds, which is money that banks have to go out and get in the funding market at a higher cost. So those are two asset classes I'm watching, perhaps a little nervously at the moment.
Okay, got that. And that just to go back to sort of India funds, it's interesting you say that a lot of money coming to India dedicated funds and bulk of it going to long-term funds, right? It's
right.
Not hedge funds and that variety. It's more long-only funds.
Yes. Hedge fund interest was very strong in 21 and 22, but came off the boil well ahead of the current surge in money we've been seeing going into more conventional funds.
And, it's kind of visible with large, long-only sort of funds. We see these names regularly lapping up, large percentage equities in companies, including, secondary offerings, IPOs, et cetera, et cetera. Thanks very much, Cameron. Great to have you with us here. Appreciate your insights, as always, here
You're
on
welcome.
CNBC-TV18. Thank you. Well, we'll take a quick commercial break here. A list of top stocks to watch with our research team coming up in just a bit.